All right, so hopefully we are live. If we are, I hope everyone is doing quite well. I never know with this system, but I want to say welcome to the Lore Reloaded, where we can talk about just about anything that we would like to. Whatever your little heart desires. It is fantastic to have you all here today. Not sure how long this one's going to go on, but hey, we'll see where we get with it. Check me out at twitter.com/lore reloaded, as well as twitch.tv/lore reloaded. And let's get the party started. So today, really, it's whatever you guys want to talk about. I can change the topic at will. I do want to take a moment just to address something that has been an annoyance to me at a minimum. Something that I gotta level with you. So, for the most part, I'm a pretty big freedom of speech guy. I'm a pretty big, talk about whatever you want. I think the best way to address stupidity is to have it out in the open and let people feel safe to say whatever they want. That way you know where people stand and you don't have dog whistles and things of that nature, people going underground. What's going on, Sydney Fame? However, my opinion on that has been, and this all comes around to Star Trek, just give it a second. My opinion has been challenged on that to some degrees because some people will not argue in good faith. Some people will sit back and pretend to argue or care about something, but they're only using it so that they can take over, and then we'll simply abolish it. And if someone isn't going to be doing it in good faith, then I do think that there is some steps you can take to that. This goes back to somewhat of trying to have a neutral take, or trying to be honest and civilized about things. And so, for instance, when we take the discussions that come with New Trek, and I guess I always have to say this, hashtag not all, but when we talk about things like New Trek, like Lower Decks, for instance, or something of that nature, channels, hashtag not all, and commenters specifically, will not engage in good faith conversation or argumentation. They're simply trying to destroy the other side, get views, or just hate something to hate it. And so when that happens, you can't really, not only can you not really argue with an understanding or in a neutral point of view, but it is absolutely just soul destroying to attempt to. So why am I saying all this? Recently, I've come out and been taking shots at people who don't like Lower Decks. And while it has been generalized, once we break it down, it comes down to those who haven't actually watched Lower Decks. If you don't like the fact that I'm taking shots or that I seem to be less unbiased than I am, then I am sorry. I cannot do that anymore. I am absolutely positively done with trying to have a conversation in an unbiased way with people who just are not doing it in good faith. And so it's just something that's going to happen. Now, when I do videos or when I do breakdowns or when I do stuff like on the nuanced take or whatnot, that I will actually attempt to be unbiased and give both sides. But when it comes to posts, Twitters, live streams, or even debates, if someone will ever debate me, nah, screw that. Gloves off, baby. Gloves off. Yeah. Kind of eye-opening when I saw a lot of channels declaring viewers leaving Lower Decks en masse after 2 episodes. Well, first off, they always say that. They said that for Discovery as well as Picard. Always say it, babies. Always say it. But more importantly, stats don't review that. If you look at the Canadian stats, it would seem like the it would seem like they're going up. I think they were number 2 in the top 50 or something on Canadian channels. So, and again, there's really no good way to know that unless you're looking at 4chan. It's just the way it is. Pad Paradasha helping out the channel. Thank you so much. Cannot do it without you guys. I'd love to hear your opinions on Voyage's Prime Factors, Season 1, Episode 9, where the crew finds themselves dealing with an advanced species' own Prime Directive. I'd have to take a look at that. I know I've seen it. Sounds familiar, but what is it? Voyager Prime Directive. Let's look. Nope. Voyager Prime Factors, not Prime Directive. Ugh. Oh, where they tried to still it and everything. That species, spoilers for Picard, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, is actually assimilated by the Borg, which I thought sucked. It's honestly just consistent with the way Voyager works. The crew listens to the Prime Directive when it is convenient for them to listen to the Prime Directive. You can't really fault them for the way they work, I think it's bad writing to have this at season 1, episode 9 or whatever it was, but that's just me. As someone who does love Futurama, I personally couldn't get through Lower Decks. Okay, I don't see those two being connected, but okay. Do you know what bad faith is? Using the principle of charity, you can't accuse someone of being in bad faith, and if you're not using the principle of charity, you're probably in bad... Oh, please, you bullshit. They are arguing in bad faith. They, in fact, actually are. The fact that you don't have to deal with it or you don't see it, or perhaps you yourself are arguing in bad faith just because you don't like it. The fact that you don't have to deal with it on a daily basis doesn't mean it's not so. I actually have to talk to people on the daily when it comes to things like Lower Decks or Picard or Discovery. 2 of those I hate. And in fact, I know that a lot of it isn't in good faith because there are people attempting to try to tie me to CBS. Tie me as in saying, multiple people saying that CBS is now paying me because I like Lower Decks, and I said it's okay. Nothing about no attempts to counter the arguments, nothing like that, just an attack on me. They were perfectly fine with the channel and everything I was saying up until I said I like Lower Decks, then they're attempting to discredit me. Now, if you don't believe that or you don't like that, that's not my problem. Wonder Woman 1984 trailer hit. The villain is like Trump. I haven't seen it yet. The parody side doesn't really fit, though. If you take it as a parody, it's okay. But again, existing in Trek, it's rather jarring. I don't know about that. I'd be curious why you think that. I mean, you have to accept that it is a adult cartoon. And I think if that's what you mean, the parody side, that you don't like that, then I think that's reasonable. But beyond that, I don't know. I was surprised by Anti-Trekker's review of the last episode of Lower Decks. I myself am looking forward to the next episode. Cautiously looking forward. Did he not like it? I saw a little bit of it. I didn't watch all that episode. I'm going to level with you. I did not watch all that episode. I thought he liked it, though. I don't know. I think it's decent. Again, the main issues, in my opinion, are that it is a cartoon. And that if you look at what Gene Roddenberry wanted, Gene Roddenberry didn't want comedies. He didn't want cartoons. So if you don't like it in that classical sense, then you're not going to like it. Gene Roddenberry would hate the series, if that makes people feel better. I have no comment on whether or not I post dank kek memes to 4chan. No comment at all. Well, you be you, Sydney. You fight that power. By the way, 70 people watching, only 18 likes. Come on. Like it. The one thing I'll say about Anti-Trekker, we don't always get along or agree, but the one thing I'll say about Anti-Trekker is I don't think that he's within any kind of bubble necessarily, and I don't think he's scared to say his opinion. So I like that. I haven't laughed yet at Lower Decks, but I did smile at the fight scene for its making fun of a certain martial arts style. Is that when with the snake, Indy? Is that what we're talking about? It's just that the morals of Lower Decks crew don't really fit with classic Trek. That's fine if you're portraying it as a crew of borderline washouts. It's fine. All right, Power Surge, let's do it. Let's do it, buddy. What morals in Lower Decks don't jive with Legacy Trek? Now I'm gonna trust me. If you give me something that I can pull out a legacy trick, I'm gonna nail you on it. So be ready. So give me some strong examples, and make damn sure it's not in legacy trick. Do you think part of what is going on with 4chan leaks is part of the overall alt-right agenda to convert more normies to the incel cause? No. I don't. I don't at all. No. But anyway, I'm looking forward to Power Surge giving me some examples of what happened. Hashtag Major Grin did nothing wrong. What's up, babe?
I just walked in the room and it's like, what?
I'm doing a live stream. What's up with you?
Ah!
I love you.
Yeah.
You gonna go play?
Yep.
What? What were we about to say?
I'm actually wondering if anyone's noticing that I changed my hair to a ponytail since it's usually down.
Oh, looks good. Turn on. I love it.
I'm wondering if anyone's noticing in the comments.
Oh, they're all noticing.
I'm going to read a comment with Isabenda Tiger, Rab at the top.
Indie Tiger?
Mm-hmm.
That says Anti-Trekker did like the Temporal Edict. Nassim says hi, lore kid.
That one.
Pito Z says popsicle time.
If you comment right now, I might read yours.
Well, it's going to take them about 20 seconds.
So let's give them. Ooh, some.
It says LOL, Lore Jr.
I'm a girl, not a boy.
A lie of omission is still a lie was the most jarring part.
What?
I don't know. That's talking about something else. I'm about to nail Power Surge to the wall on that one. No, he's about to be wrong.
I don't get anything. I
right.
don't get any of this.
Go play.
So
I love you. So Power Surge, just to make sure. Thanks, David. Talk to you later. So Power Surge, just to make sure. Are you ready? You're saying a lie of omission is still a lie. That is not something that I will find in Legacy Trek. I'm not going to be able to point that out at least once, multiple times. Just to make sure, Power Surge, that's what you're saying. That's one of the morals. That's one of the lack of morals in Lower Decks. That's not going to be in Legacy Trek. I just want to make sure. So, all right. So I just want to make sure, because I don't want you to come back and be like, well, no, that wasn't the one. I don't want any goalposts. I'm worried about your back, Power Surge. I don't want the goalpost to have to be moved. You specifically said what I don't like is the lack of morals in Lower Decks. And so you're going to show me where their lack of morals in Lower Decks is there and not in Legacy Trek. No, sir. Okay.
Dad, can we have a popsicle?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, goodbye.
Sir, Power Surge. Sit down, Power Surge. Because the person who hid something in the light, who decided to lie. His name, little known character, you might not know who it is. Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Now look, I know that you don't watch, you can't be like me. You can't have watched all the series 3 or 4 or 5 times. So there's this captain named Captain Jean-Luc Picard. He was actually in charge of the capital ship, of the flagship of the Federation. And so here's what happened. And I'm not going to give you the episode. I'm going to let you guys guess the episode because you guys are really good at this. So here's what happened. The Cardassians, I think it was early seasons, the Cardassians had started bringing weapons to the border. And so what was happening is there was this one captain who figured it out. Now, he was broken due to the Cardassian... Oh, wait. Yeah, so you may not know this, but in TNG, and again, little known thing, there are captains who did wrong things in TNG. And I know it's come so against Legacy Trek for TNG captains to go badass crazy. So anyway, this captain started attacking other Cardassian ships, transports, because they knew that there were weapons and stuff on them. So the Enterprise had to go after him, right? And whole big rigmarole. But towards the end, Picard knew 100%. He knew 100% that they were taking weapons and rearming along the Federation Cardassian border. He didn't tell anybody. He decided to lie. He did a lie of omission, not only to his crew, but to the Federation as a whole. Starfleet didn't tell the Federation that they were arming because, according to his own words, there would be war. So he specifically went out of his way to lie so that there wouldn't be war between the Cardassians and the Federation. This was a huge plot point. This was talking about war. So, now, maybe since it's such a minor character, like Picard, we don't want to go that way. Would you have any other morals that would not be major plot points specifically? No, SC. And that's another point. SC, this is a common mistake. You see, the Federation definitely didn't start working on their own cloaks and actually made better cloaks than the Romulans, and were doing it in secret and not telling the Romulans, doing an effective lie of omission in order to get a one-up on the Romulan Star Empire. That didn't happen either. It's not true. Starfleet Command would never do that. Good sir. But he couldn't prove it. The culvert starburst was... He could prove it, Sidney Fain. He absolutely could. He could prove it 100%. He specifically said, the reason I did not go on that transport, the reason is because we would be going to war. He knew without a doubt that there were weapons and that they were rearming along the Federation Cardassian border. He lied to the entirety of the Federation. But by God, Lower Decks better not have a lie of omission there. Because that's not Legacy Trek. Just like TNG. Not Legacy Trek. Just not. Sorry, guys. Not Legacy Trek at all. Oh, another thing that wasn't Legacy Trek was when Cisco... well... Nah, we're not even going to go there. Nope, I'll just stick with Picard. I am here for you, Burger. My biggest issue with Lower Decks is the bridge crew, especially since they're not the main characters. They should be idolized and above reproach. Absolutely! 100%. I, for instance, get so mad when the bridge crew are just horrific people. I, for instance, get so angry. For instance, like when the XO of Lower Decks openly mocked an officer that was lower than him. He was calling him broccoli. He even got the captain of the ship to say broccoli. And I could not... Wait a second, that was TNG. Hold on. TNG had Riker making fun of Barclay. That was... Okay, that's a bad example. Let's not look at that. Let's look at the episode where you had the XO being horrifically rude to someone who was trying to connect with him, to someone that was trying to sit there and start a dialogue. But this was a lower officer, and he was even up for a promotion, and Riker was talking negatively behind this. Oh, wait, I said Riker. Oh, hell, that was TNG again. Jesus Christ. Okay. Okay. Oh, in Lower Decks, I remember. Are you ready? All right. So the security officer, there was these Maquis, and the security officer could not stand them. Thought they were lower. They were dirt. Treated them just horrifically. This Vulcan... Wait a second. It was a Vulcan. The Lower Deck security officer was Maquis. Who the hell was I? That was a Voyager episode. Okay. All right, here we go. Are we ready? All right. So there was this this engineer. He was a chief. He was actually head of the engineering section on the station, and he was pro. Union, and one of the officers, strategic operation officers, wasn't pro. Wasn't pro union, and so the strategic officer beat the living hell out of him, and it was made into a. Wait a second, that's Deep Space Nine. All right, hold on, guys. Hold on. Wait a second. I think maybe in TNG, DS9, and Voyager, the senior staff were jerks that sometimes did bad things to the lower decks. Wait a second. I don't... Okay. I needed my drinky. By the way, thank you so much for the support, Pad. If that's not what you wanted, I can return the money. I just disagree with it. One was to protect the Federation. So, Presurge. How do you say your name? I don't want to say your name wrong. Power Surge? It's okay to lie if you're saving the Federation, but it's not okay to lie if you're saving your own ass. Huh. Okay. My biggest beef about the fandom BS is that I've never heard people defy Roddenberry's vision until Disc. I don't think people care. I think that's unfair. I don't think people care about it as much about Roddenberry's vision as much as the spirit of Star Trek. I think that is what it is, and I think there's an argument to be made. That the spirit of Discovery and Picard isn't the same spirit of Legacy Trek. And so I think Lower Decks has that same spirit, but I'm open to the conversation of it being wrong. See, my problem is, and I'm not mad, but I do get passionate because there's anything that you say about Lower Decks, especially this stuff, happened in TNG. It just did. Mine's out of context examples from 21 plus seasons of runtime. They are the exception, not the standard. We are 3 episodes in. Cosmic Drift. Yours is out of Please, that's bullshit. But okay. Cosmic Drift. You're looking at Lower Decks is out of context. We are only 3 episodes in, and we don't know how many more there will be. These could be the exception to the rule. But beyond that, these aren't like just one-offs that I'm just giving to you. I can actually show you a consistent theme of these things happening to one degree or another within TNG, DS9, or Voyager. Voyager especially. Voyager was horrible about it. People complain about Deep Space Nine, define Roddenberry's vision, but it's my favorite show. Yeah, there was a lot of hate for Deep Space Nine. Tindy, Boimler, and Rutherford are all solid Starfleet officers that do their jobs, and they do them well. Mariner is the only character who's not fit for duty. She willingly ignores orders. Here's my thing. Here's my point. I just read something. So when you complain about Mariner, I think you could say it is a stretch that she's not removed, especially given how strict the captain is. Because she is openly defiant. I'm willing to let that go, and it's not something that isn't out of the norm. TNG, not so much. We did see it in DS9 and Voyager quite a bit. But if you say I don't like Mariner because of how disrespectful or how she doesn't care, Okay, I somewhat see that. I disagree to a degree, but I somewhat see that. Power Surge, by the way, thank you so much for the support. This is you and me disagreeing. I just get passionate about it. I appreciate support. You don't have to. I'll still talk to you if you don't give the thing. That's fine. We can disagree. I just don't like people who lie for their own benefit inside their own chain of command. I just don't get the feel of consequences in Lower Deck that I did in Legacy or Classic Trek. Thanks. I think I would say... I don't know. I just... You know, and here's something too. Let me say this, just to be fair. Let's all be fair, right? I have analyzed this so much that I don't have nostalgia or a feeling for classic or legacy Trek anymore, because again, I just know a lot about it, right? And so I think that could play a piece into it. What frustrates me, and you kind of hit on this, and it wasn't necessarily you necessarily. Again, it's the ideas. What frustrates me is like for your instance, well, they were, you know, they're liars, or they were they were disrespectful. It happens in Legacy Trek. Now, people will try to say, well, it only happened once or twice. Well, how many times does it have to happen, number one? And number two, it's not like it's not a consistent theme. It's not, I'll grant, it's not every episode. But it would at least happen commonly in almost every season, if not every season. But again, I don't have the love, I guess. I don't want to say love, because I do really enjoy it. I would say I love the Trek. I don't know. I don't know how to put it. Sydney Fain, should we get too worked up over what is supposed to be an animated parody style show, though? I wonder if our expectations are too high. I don't think there's anything wrong with getting passionate or getting mad or having deep discussions. I think the life is what we make it, and just to say, well, it's just a cartoon, is dismissive. It would be like saying, I mean, you could literally say that about anything, you know. So I don't necessarily get upset about it. I just think, again, and it's really, I haven't really encountered anyone here necessarily. A lot of people who hate Lower Decks just don't argue in good faith. They just don't. Inspector Penguin, what's up? Ransom had to stab Mariner to get her to stop putting her life on the line for the away team. I liked that piece. I'd be interested, because I think you and me have been going at it, Inspector. I'd be interested what your thoughts are on that. Show us the... I've never been a big fan of Roddenberry's vision of Trek. If you're coming to me for Roddenberry's vision of Trek, you are in the wrong place, good friend. Because I have not. Roddenberry would hate everything that I think is great in Trek. He would not be a fan of my channel. The Lore Revolutions is coming, the sequel to Lore Reloaded, where he shapes the lore for the better. Aw. Thank you, Homeless McCoy. The funny thing is about that, Inspector, Ransom had to stab Mariner to get her to stop putting her life on the line. I don't think she was putting her life on the line. I don't think he was stopping her from putting the life on the line. She was being reckless, and she felt like only she could fix things, and she was the one to do it, and that he couldn't handle it, and he didn't want to help people. She forgot that being a Starfleet officer, especially the commander or over someone, means that you're going to give your life for them, and you're not going to hide behind them. I really liked that scene. That scene really put the XO in a good slot for me. That was one of the most Starfleet officer proto-evolved human things I've seen on Lore Reloaded. On Lower Decks. Sorry, I'm trying to read this while I'm talking. I think it is one of the best scenes in Lower Decks. I really, really do. Mariner took an action that made sense for the character. Sure, I feel that Lower Decks should be held to the same standards as the Three Stooges. I I don't know that I agree with that. I don't know. Same perfect humans is boring. Maybe. Thanks again. We can disagree. I'm fine with lower decks being a view of the non-Paragon members of Starfleet. When classic characters fail morally, it's portrayed as a failure. You know, I think that can be fair, Power Surge. You could come back and say, well, this was them being outside of their norm, whereas lower decks, that's the norm for them. Maybe that's what you're saying the whole time. I still don't think that necessarily it's bad or inaccurate. I would say, and don't worry, someone's going to trigger me, guys. I'll get back to being passionate. I would say, I think that the more I watch The Next Generation, the more I think we're seeing the flagship. And so the flagship has card-carrying believers. Especially when you look at them interacting with other starships and other Starfleet officers, it doesn't seem to be as clean. If she had known that Ransom could have been a body double for Colossus, then she'd probably let him handle the fight. Yeah, that's true. So ethical. I'm from the planet Edo, you say. Me personally, I have to say my favorite Trek series is Enterprise. I know it wasn't that liked, but I loved it. I haven't watched Lower Decks yet. They're, oh man. Yeah, I am so fucking tired of that. I gotta be honest. It is so frustrating. And that's where I think a lot of people, that's the one that gets me a lot. I'll be honest with you, because that's just a blatant bad faith argument. Because no one ever started saying that until I said I liked Lower Decks and started defending it. I always felt Roddenberry's vision of humanity's future was portrayed through the specific ships that we followed, TOS and TNG Enterprise. But as we've seen, not all of humanity is on the same page. I mean, that's possible. I don't think that was his intent, though. I didn't like the first episode. I liked episode 3 a lot. I feel that come season 2, the writers will be far more comfortable. Maybe. I think the first episode was trying to show us a smorgasbord, if you will, of what we were going to see or what we'll see going throughout the season. Whereas episode 2 and episode 3 were specific. They were focused on what their thing is. I always make the point that the Federation is fascist. Almost their entire economy is based around the Starfleet, and they are super nationalist, insert planet instead of states. Okay. I have found out that trying to argue whether they're fascist, capitalist, democratic, or whatever is, you just can't really tell. I know there are some channels that would like to pretend that you could, but you can't. I'm glad someone likes it. Heck, this is one of the reasons about it. Just because I am not really on board with it doesn't mean I won't grow to like it. That's true. Thanks for the support, Mike Hinden. In the real military, you have a lot of guys who pull the sorts of stuff that the Lower Decks crew do. It's just jarring comparing to the card-carrying Paragon. Sure. Let me ask you this, Power Surge. How'd you feel about Deep Space Nine and Enterprise? Deep Space Nine went out of its way to be like the anti-TNG. And they specifically they had like a terrorist as the XO. They went out of their way. They were proud about breaking the Prime Directive. So I'd be curious what your thoughts were on that, or was it still close enough? You know, even the first episode of DS9, the captain blackmailed somebody. Well, like exploring time paradoxes, AI sentience, the ramifications of tech, i.e. the probe from the inner light, Best Trek seems like it pushes the boundaries. Well, yeah, I mean, so there's two pieces to that, right? Like, if you look at... One thing Star Trek always did was something new. They always tried to push the boundaries. And so I can at least respect Discovery and Picard for doing that, because that's what they did. They pushed the boundaries. I think it went in the wrong direction, but when it comes to that, they did do that. Sisko violated the Geneva Convention. Yeah, he did that a couple of times. See, Leo is trying to get me to talk about how Sisko utilized chemical weapons, biogenic weapons, to attack an entire planet, because he knows some of you thinks that that's okay. And that will trigger me. What are my thoughts on what are my thoughts on cursing even when it's beeped? I really think cursing I don't mind cursing overall. In fact, some of the funnest times of my life involve me, another person, and cursing. But for Star Trek, I don't generally think that it should be there. Here and there, I don't think there's an issue with it. I don't think they've gone overboard on lower decks. And in fact, they say the in racial slur in Deep Space Nine, like full on in racial slur in Deep Space Nine. But I don't think that that's the regular for Trek. So I'll be honest with you, because what I grew up with was Trek that played on TV. And because it played on television, they had to follow the rules set by television. They had to follow arguably draconian rules for how you run a show. And because of that, because I watched 4 series growing up, and it was all under these draconian rules, for me, that became what Trek is. And that's been a counter that people have said. Well, you don't like, the massive amounts of gore, like the gore porn that is Discovery and Picard. You don't like how much cursing they do. You don't like X. But the only reason they did that on Legacy Trek is because they had to, because it was on TV. That's not what they wanted to do originally. Let's just agree with that for the sake of argument. Let's say all of the writers wanted to make Trek what we see Discovery and Picard when it comes to gore porn and when it comes to curse words and everything. Let's just assume that they are 100% correct. They didn't, and they couldn't. And because they didn't and they couldn't, it became a part of the Star Trek soul to not be those things. It became a trait of Star Trek, in my opinion. Now, here's the thing, though. Here's the point to that. Some people could come back and say that if that's true, then Lower Decks can't be, because Lower Decks isn't the soul. It's a comedy, and it's an animation. And now you could counter with TAS, but most all of Trek has been not a comedy and not animation. No, come here. You're fine. Come here. Oh, okay. Hey, you're beautiful.
I know.
Love you.
Also, the cat wanted to get out.
Well, he does that. So I can see that being a slippery slope argument, but I still think a part of the soul of it is not going too far, The Pale Moonlight, by the way, you said something, Power Surge. I approved it, but did not read it because I was in the middle of something. DS9 was a nice Escott Real view. I think it's just jarring. Okay. I mean, if you don't like it because of those things, that's fair, Power Surge. You find it in TNG. And again, it's just my argument is, personally, is that I think... my argument personally is that I think that I think it was consistent enough. Now, but here's an interesting point. Gore porn in TNG, they blow someone's head off. That, in my opinion, is truly a one-off. Like, really. Is there, and there may be, but is there another instance of that happening? Because the biggest where the fuck was I going with? Like, when you're talking about examples of lying or hiding the truth, the Picard thing was just the biggest one that I could think of. It's a consistent theme that we've seen. But when it comes to gore porn, I don't think that's consistent. I just don't. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. If you can walk me through that. Where I tell you, so I can be talked into things. Like, for instance, I don't get upset about the way the Klingons look in Discovery. When it first came out, I was pretty upset about it. Beyond that, kids continue to walk into this room because that's what happens when you have kids and stuff. And apparently one has an iPad that she wants me to give the password to. Is that what it is? My giggle box?
Yes.
Yes.
And I want you to call me Gigglebox.
Well, you are a giggle box. I hate the Loud House. Why do you like them? They are like SpongeBob. It's just not good. No. If you want to watch it, you can watch it downstairs, not here. Hey, I love you. Be careful, don't run with that downstairs, okay? Borg assimilation in Voyager was graphic, was? I don't think it was. Not on par with what we saw in Discovery. I don't think. Maybe. Make no mistake, I would be happy to see the idiotic things I write on a screen, but I'd also be annoyed to zog it. Someone else did it. Okay. Bonus unlocked. Tablet unlocked for the kids completed. TNG's loud as a whisper. Bodies were vaporized down to their skeletons. Oh, I was talking about the Klingons. There it is. So the Klingons, I don't get upset about Discovery Klingons. And the reason why I don't get upset about Discovery Klingons is because the when you look at the original series Klingons, then you look at the original series movies Klingons. So the TOS Klingons, TOS series Klingons are different from TOS movies Klingons. TOS movie Klingons are different from season 1 TNG Klingons. TNG season 1 Klingons are different from TNG season 2 Klingons, which are different from TNG season 3 Klingons, which are different from Deep Space Nine Klingons, which stayed mostly consistent in Voyager Klingons, which are different than Enterprise Klingons, which are different than Discovery Klingons. So that was one where I got upset about the Discovery Klingons, but when I looked, they changed them so much that it's something you just accept. So if there was a lot of gore in the Legacy Trek, but I just don't think there is. Maybe there is, but I don't think so. The Borg in the first season it was introduced changed quite a bit, but I think they got it consistent by the 4th or 5th episode with them. Until the Queen, and then the Queen was... I hate the Queen so much. I think that Roddenberry just based every alien race on aspects of humanity. The violent Klingons, the greedy Ferengi. Yeah. But, I mean, back then, that's the way the writing was. The writing was less nuanced than we have it now. And you always had good versus evil. Like, going back to... and I think a good example of this, and if he ever wants to come on to talk about it... like the Anti-Trekker, he grew up during the original series. And a lot of that was like good versus evil. It was just blatant. And that's the type of media that you grew up with. And so he more tends towards that. For me, I was a kid of the 90s, and that is when they started. You still had basically good versus evil, but they started getting a little bit more nuanced with it, a little more gray. And then especially into the 2000s. And so that's something that I prefer. But he has some good arguments when it comes to that. Lower Decks, I wouldn't say Lower Decks. I could do voice acting. I disagree, Ray. There was an episode of Voyager where a Vidian walked in to greet B'Elanna wearing her homie's face. That's fair. That was pretty graphic. I agree. Legacy gore was so much like implied than exhibited, unless no other option was available. There was a lot of implying to it. I think implying is different than showing. I think the B'Elanna one, where he was wearing Friend's face, that was horrific. So yeah, I'll agree there. That one was pretty bad. And then the face exploding one was pretty bad. Cosmic Drift compared to TOS Lower Decks is crazy nuanced. I don't know what Cosmic Drift is, unfortunately. I don't think I've ever seen it. One thing... I don't know. Trek aliens are so one note that it encourages characters in the universe to be openly racist via stereotype. Yeah, that was done on purpose. A person 2222. I think that was a little bit done on purpose. But it makes them look really bad. Inspector Penguin, I feel like you and I have disagreed, and I need to talk to you about something. Like, literally, you and me were in the comments, and I was like, if I see him on a live stream, me and him need to have a conversation. Maybe it wasn't you, but I feel like it was. Okay, well, is it one word? Okay, I know that you've commented. Maybe I just don't spell your name right. Hold on. There we go. Of course, that doesn't pull anything. I know we've had a conversation, haven't we? We've had to. Okay, this is just dumb. Why is it giving me every other person beyond you? Okay, I don't know. Have we had a conversation? Have you and me been at it at some point? It wasn't bad. I wasn't like going to yell at you or anything or try to like get mad. I feel like we've had a conversation though that I wanted to clarify actually talking. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. From my 90s kid perspective, the changing of the Klingons was always just slight, so one could handle it. But Discovery changed it so much. Yeah, I mean, from a 90s perspective, sure. But like if you look at the 60s, like the original series actual TV show versus the original series movies, that was drastically different. I don't think we have, unless it was on Jesse Gender's chat. Maybe not. I don't know. I really feel like it was you, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was somebody else. I think the issue is that in classic Trek, we never really see the enlisted side of the equation. Everyone is commissioned officer. Lower Decks flips that equation. Well, it's not just that, Power Surge. And I even said this a little bit before. We're looking at the flagship. We're looking at the best of the best, you know? We're looking at when Starfleet sends somebody for first contact, it's the USS Enterprise. This is the ship that no one did. And I had an issue with that at the beginning. I'll be honest with you. And this is a while back. It's before it launched. But one of my issues was this is not Trek, because Trek has always been the pinnacle of humanity. Trek has always been being better than the sum of your parts. And even though I think that every flaw and every avarice that exists in Lower Decks, you can definitely find it in TNG. I would say that TNG and DS9, definitely, were about humans being better than what they were. I find Picard to be the proto-human. If there is ever a standard for what humans should be, taking away his bigotry towards religion, Picard is it, in my opinion. And that's one of the reasons why I couldn't like Picard, the Star Trek Picard, so much, is because it's like watching the... I don't know, it's just like watching a figure slowly degrade, you know? What's going on, Dutch? They don't act like it, though. They play the enlisted stereotypes. They do. I agree with that. What would you say to a Trek series that shows a darker side of the Trek universe without the Discovery BS? I would say that it goes against Legacy Trek. I would say that that it's not what Trek originally was meant to do, and I'd have to see where they go with it in the series. It could be interesting if it was like a Babylon 5 type deal, not the station, but the way they look at it, where these people want to be the best of the best, but they can't because they have to play by the rules. Functional histories, what's going on? Gene is spinning. Maybe it was functional histories. Oh my god, I don't know. There was one of you guys that I wanted to have a clarification with. I know you and I have had discussions, functional histories. Let's see. But this filter is not going to show it. Watch. No, there's nothing. The chat is messing up. Yosef, helping out the channel. Do you imply Trek is inconsistent? How dare you? How dare you, sir? I say. Discovery did violence for shock and awe. They did violence just because they could. And that's never good writing, no matter what it is. DS9 is about as dark as Trek should ever get, in my opinion. You know, I kind of disagree. I kind of agree. I think DS9 went as far as it really should go, but that's because I love DS9. See, for me, Discovery actually did one better than TNG with Pike over Picard in terms of perfect aspirational figures, but I'd rather credit the Pike show when it launched. I don't think we've seen enough of Pike to really know, and I think Pike always took second fiddle to Michael in instances that he shouldn't have. I can say one of the most powerful scenes in all of Trek, and I mean this, one of the most powerful scenes in all of Trek was probably when Pike, and spoilers for Discovery for those who care, is when Pike watched he watched the Admiral die. He watched his friend die. And he came back onto the bridge, and they're in the middle of the battle with Section 31, and he just took a minute and just to process the death of one of his mentors, one of his really close friends. He took a second, he processed it, he looked up, and he did his job. I think that was one of the most powerful scenes that I've seen in all of Trek. And I'll tell you, I thought that, and a lot of people get upset at this because of what he turned into. Who's the captain? Oh my God. He was the first captain of the Discovery. I forget his name. Holy hell. What the hell was his name? Well, I'll wait 20 seconds and you guys can catch me up on what his name was. But anyway, I thought he was the not perfect, but I thought he was a great, combination of several different captains. Lorca, there we go. Lorca, before he turned out to be evil and Mirror Universe, I thought he was a combination of Janeway, of Picard, of Kirk, of Cisco. I thought he was a great combination of all of those characters. One of the most Starfleet things I've ever seen happen, not one of the most, but one of the most Kirk, Cisco-esque, along with Picard, diplomatic things that I ever see happen was when there was this planet with crystals that didn't understand that if you're in a war and you look like you're going to help somebody, you're going to get killed. So you have this Klingon ship, the Klingon ship of the ages, right? The ultimate Klingon ship that kills everything. It's on its way, and it's going to blow the hell out of this planet. Starfleet Command tells the Discovery, you got to return. We cannot at any point risk you getting destroyed because we have to have you there. And so what happens is instead of using the spore drive to get back, let's not get into the spore drive thing, but instead of using this instant get back there drive, Lorca says, all right, take us back to the base, warp 4 or warp 5 or whatever. And then he turns to his crew and he says, all right, if we get there by warp 5, that takes about 6 hours. If you can figure out a way to defeat this ship in that amount of time, then we'll use the spore drive and come right back and beat the ever living hell out of it. But if you can't, then there's not a lot I can do. I got orders. And he also he's like, but I have to have a reason for why why we're not using the spore drive right now. You know what, Stamets? We can't be sure that this isn't having a negative effect on you. So why don't you go and get checked out? You know, you never know. It just might happen, which was something Spock did, if you remember. So, that it was like Kirk meets Cisco meets Picard. It was an epic captain move. Discovery had good points. It had really bright points. It's just most of it is not. Remember in Voyager when they ran into Equinox, that was Starfleet at their worst. Captain Ransom tortured creatures to boost their warp drive. Tortured, mass killing them. Yeah. Interestingly enough, that was a two-parter, and they didn't know what was going to happen in part 2. And so the reactions and the way they worked were a little bit off if you watch. I think the best Pike moment was when he saw his own destiny, then still grabbed the crystal. Yeah, when he said, I'm Starfleet or whatnot, I thought it was cool. Do you know of the fan film called Star Trek Horizon full film? Not only do I know of that, I, in fact, talked to and interviewed the creator of that. I actually had him on Skype for a long while. Pretty cool guy. He did a lot for that. Agreed, Lore Reloaded. Pike should have been more of a commanding presence with Michael. On another note, number 1 had her moment just before the final battle. She's scared, but she does her job. Yep. I liked number 1's portrayal. A lot of people didn't, but I did. There's still a chance that Disco is closed loop timeline. I know it's not popular opinion, but they do have time travel tech. When you say closed loop, walk me through that. Thoughts on Enterprise? Personally, it's my favorite series, but I'm curious about your... We talked about that. I think they have some of the most horrific episodes that I've ever seen. Season 1 was pretty poor. The Xindi war arc really rocked. People really need to give it more credit than it deserves. Not more credit than it gets. It deserves more credit. Then they did something really stupid with Nazis, which just tanked their numbers. And then in their last season... they were the ratings were actually going back up. They had righted this ship. They had fixed it, but it had already been canceled by then. Ransom was a mass murderer, regardless. What are we talking about? I don't necessarily. Mass. When you say mass murderer, I don't know that I agree he was a mass murderer. That's. Mass murdering is a little bit more than what Ransom did, in my opinion. But he was definitely a killer. He was a murderer. He was a chronic killer. I forget what the word is. I don't know that Mass uses. YouTube failed to give me a notification again. Well, hit that bell button, buddy. What if a Klingon, a Romulan, a human, and a Vulcan had to share a room? They'd have an orgy. They'd have lots of babies. Like, even if they were all the same sex, lots of babies. I love the idea of the Xindi, but it bothered me that Kirk, Picard, Janeway, and Sisko never mentioned anything about the Xindi or Xindi War. Yeah, that's why you don't do prequels. I can't stand prequels. I don't know why we do prequels. Hot take. The really, really stupid Voyager episode with the lizard babies is the ultimate end of the Discovery time loop. That is a hot take. Nobody believes that, sir. Nobody likes that. What's your opinion on one of the showrunner's comments about Future Guy being Future Arch? It's not just one of the showrunners saying it. That's a common theory. Future Guy and the entire time war, whatever, was forced on them by execs. The executives wanted this time war, and the writers did not. And that's why they didn't go anywhere with it. I think it would have been interesting if it was Archer and then for them to work around it. But hitting the bells hurt. You hit the bells and you like it, good sir. By the way, 100 people watching, only 65 likes. Hit that like button. Do you think the Zunkatsi arena fights in Voyager and the Hirogen episodes were gory? Not in the slightest. Can you give me some examples? Refresh the... Love your work and passion, mate. It's getting me through COVID lockdown in Melbourne, Australia. Well, I'm here for you, Pete Oz. I'm here for you. Data, Cisco, and Jadzia Dax are my favorite Starfleet characters. Well, cool. They're not going to mention everything in universe on screen. Don't know what that's referring to, Kingzilla. I love that J.G. Hertzler was the Hirogen coach in that episode. Yeah, I like that they reused the actors. I think that's cool. I still love that they adopted the name Future Guy from SF Debris. Did they get that? Well, I don't know that they... did SF Debris come up with that? Because I thought I had heard Future Guy before that. He's come up with a lot of things, though, like the Cisco's pimp hand. I love that. Do you think that Moriarty has figured out he's in a little box yet? No, and I don't think he ever will. Ever will. They fought to the death in the Hirogen episodes. People were getting killed in World War II. It's murder versus gore, I guess. I don't think it's murder versus... Yeah, there's a difference between murder versus gore. And there's a difference between implied gore and actual gore. I'm more okay with Trek having implied gore. Here's hoping they can bring back The Rock. Oh, God, I hope not. By the way, speaking of SF Debris had the best So let's hear about those squad daddies. Squad daddies, by the way, tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'll be doing a pen and paper show with Treklad, Lore Runner, and Jesse Jinder. So you guys should definitely be here for that, which includes squad daddies. But I liked SF Debris' ending of the Enterprise, where he had the Enterprise basically sacrifice itself to reset time due to this temporal war, and so that it never existed. I think that would explain everything. Squad Daddies are new Trek and banned. Squad Daddies are the only good thing to come out of new Trek. You think Starfleet scientists would learn to stop leaving the toaster on? Hey, hey. What type of tech do I think 26th century? Well, we know that 26th century or even 30th century tech has basically... what did the Discovery become? It basically became like Alexa. So we know that'll exist. Though somehow already existed, which is kind of weird. Have I done videos on Tamarian ships? I don't know that I've done a video on a Tamarian ship. I don't feel like I have. I guess I need to do that. By the way, guys, I'm not against doing like Starship breakdowns, but the channel is kind of moving a little bit past that. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not against it, but... Lore Runner and Jesse Jinder committed genocide last week in game. Imagine what they'll do for an encore. They did. They killed an entire planet. And a new species they could have met. Well, they didn't do it. They just let someone else do it, to be fair. I wish Q could have met Archer. That would have been fun. Archer would just get hit in the face by him and then, I don't know, destroy entire species. I don't know. BB-8 is a doorstop. That's true. He's not a door. He's right here. We're going to be ending this pretty soon, guys. So if you have anything else you want to say before we get off. Hey, get off. See what I said there? What did I think of Star Trek Renegades? It had the actual ECHAB. I wonder why CBS never took that pilot. Renegades was fine. I didn't hate Renegades, necessarily. Whoa. Archer, that's not how evolution works. That's exactly what he needed to be told to him. What do I think about the Odyssey class? It was fine. I like the Odyssey class. BB, I didn't like BB-8 first time I saw him. It's kind of grown on me. R2's awesome too, though. It would be interesting to hear your theories on how the political situation of the galaxy may evolve in the future. What will happen when the Klingons meet the Hirogen? The Klingons, by the time the Klingons meet the Hirogen, I'd imagine they'd be a part of Starfleet, which Starfleet has a devastating impact on them culturally. So, I don't know. My work is awesome and you enjoy it? Well, good. I'm glad you enjoy it. Next week, I'm not going to be having anything because I'm actually power recording. I've already gotten 3 videos done. I'm trying to get an entire month's worth done by the end of next week. If I do that, that means you'll have videos almost every day. And I'll be doing live streams like this. I'll either be on talking on this channel, or I'll be at twitch.tv/Lore Reloaded playing a game and hanging out. Now, when I'm playing a game and hanging out, that's me just chilling, so I'm not going to be on point. And while I will play a lot of Star Trek games, they won't all be Star Trek games. Would I consider doing a Star Wars video soon? I will. I actually have that in the works. Adam, you don't care anymore. You don't care anymore about what, Adam? Because I care about what you care about. I'm glad that your beard is back. Man, I'm glad too. Will you do a breakdown of the Enterprise F? I think I've already done one of the Enterprise F. I think I've done a big one. Do you think the reason the Borg never fully invaded the Federation is because they were busy with the Romulans, who were maybe fighting them off? Do I think the reason the Borg never fully... I think the Borg are like computers, and they work exactly like a computer works, where on paper, something should do well. On paper, a Borg cube should take over all of the Alpha Quadrant. So every time the Borg looks at something, it just looks at how it would do it on paper, and then they're confused when plot armor comes in, and they always lose. So with all the mind meldings, Spock did with Kirk and McCoy, how come it is that neither one of them knew that he had a brother who was emotional and the adoptive sister? I get why you hate prequels. Yeah, and they just randomly add stuff. I do play Star Trek Online, not as much as I used to. Is there an alien species that you think needs to be explored some more? I think. Alien species that needs to be explored some more. I'd be interested to see Dominion, Gamma Quadrant Dominion looked at more. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think on that one. Orions. I'd like to see the Orions looked at a little bit more. Romulans. Wednesday, I second more binars. Who doesn't need more binars? Everyone does. It's a really good point. With all the backstory lore that was introduced in Picard, it's conceivable now that there could be a reason that they didn't just wipe the Federation out. Okay. Should Discovery do a musical episode, and if so, Broadway or hip-hop? Broadway all the way. I was going to ask about the new Romulan carriers look better forward or aft. I don't know enough about that. I got to be honest with you. I'm going to level with you here, good sir. Level. All right, one more question, and then I'm out. I'm going to wait, though. I'm going to look for a good one. And I'm going to be out. If the Dominion is as old as they say, I wonder why there weren't far-flung populations of defective Vorta. Maybe there are. Maybe we just haven't looked at it. Good sir. Guys, I want to thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.